Hello, everyone, and welcome to What's the Point? My name is Megan Corder. I'm an Alumni Engagement Officer with the Office of Alumni Engagement and Giving at Point Park University. This series is part of our hope to continue to have great conversations with alumni and with folks that work with alumni in industries that are relevant to alumni, most notably job searching in the career industry. So we have a wonderful guest with us today who's going to talk a little bit about the Professional Career-Readiness Center at Point Park, as well as his own experiences regarding career development and resumes and all that good stuff. So if you don't mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kenny Anderson. I am the coordinator of employer recruitment and student engagement at Point Park University. More specifically, I work in the Professional Career-Readiness Center, where we pretty much just help students get career ready. We help them with professional documents, help them get experiential learning opportunities. And my role specifically is just trying to bridge that gap between employers and students in a very attractive way. So trying to come up with events that kind of meet students where they're at, so they're not scared to talk to employers, not scared to network and get themselves out there.
I think that's great. Now, I know I initially pitched this to you as a coffee chat. So to begin, I have a cup of, I think this is vanilla honey chamomile. It's a little bit of a long name. So I'm enjoying a cup of this.
My go-to beverage is a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee with caramel swirl and skim milk. It's like that right refreshing type of beverage where it just has coffee, caffeine, just goes through your veins. You feel rejuvenated.
Are you a Dunkin' person?
I would say I'm biased towards Dunkin' since I worked there for about 8 years. So
okay, so you know Dunkin' very well.
I know the ins and outs of Dunkin'.
So one of the questions I've been asking folks as part of this series is recently, whether that was during all of the coronavirus or within the last couple months, has there been a hobby that you've either picked up, one that maybe you hadn't done before you'd wanted to try, or a hobby that you now are revisiting now that you've got a little bit of time to do that?
I think a new hobby that I've been wanting to do but never really were able to do was kind of just take those walks by yourself to appreciate your surroundings, the people in your life, and just kind of reflect on your life. I think that's very underutilized in today's society. People think about just going for walks as for exercise. While that may be the case, you can also use that as like a self-care kind of technique to kind of think about your life, think about those who are in your life, and how to make your life better, pretty much.
So I talked a little bit about this series at the beginning, but really our hope with this conversation is we know that the Professional Career Readiness Center is a wealth of wonderful information, and you one of the unique benefits of being a Point Park alumni is that you have access to the center and its services for life.
Yes.
So that's why we're so excited to talk with you today, is to one, talk about all your great insight from the industry, but also that alumni are aware that this service is available to them. From your experience, I know that you all do a lot of really cool outreach and projects. Could you tell us a little bit about what the Professional Career Readiness Center does, and kind of how you all work with students, and what are some of the services that you offer?
So we offer a variety of different appointments for students. We offer resume kind of check-in appointments to make sure your resume is up to date. We offer complete resume reconstruction reviews. So if a student has questions or doesn't even know what a resume is, they can schedule an appointment with the office, and we can start with that, and we can take over multiple appointments if necessary, or we can do it all in one. Along with that, we do other professional documents, like I stated. We do cover letters. A lot of it's very informational to give to students. Also, we do explore majors, explore careers kind of type of appointments. So if a student has a question about their career, where they can go, or if they feel like they want to change majors and go in a different career path, we can offer those services as well. I know just recently I received a voicemail from a student who just graduated, who's in her 40s, and she's thinking about doing some redevelopment upon her career. She kind of wants to go in a different direction. So what I did is I tried to connect her with one of our career counselors that was kind of related to the major that our career counselor was specified for, and just get in contact, talk with her, talk with an expert. So she feels like she's not alone, because a lot of these alum who feel like they're going down the wrong path and they want to make a career choice, they feel like they can't make a career choice because it's quote unquote too late.
Mhm.
So we want those alum to know that we're always here for them, and they have these services for life, so utilize them while they have them.
One topic that you and I had thought might be very interesting would be written and kind of print materials. So we know that Point Park is really focused on creating students and alumni that are career ready. From your experience, how do written materials play into that perception of being career ready?
So a lot of written materials include professional documents. So those include resumes, personal statements, as well as cover letters. So in order to kind of apply for a job, most jobs require you to send in a cover letter and a resume. And these written materials can help you further yourself along the job process. Um, and I think it's vital for students to learn about these professional documents in their college career and college courses. It can make them career ready, make them have that advantage over other students who might not even know what written materials all go into a job application.
What is so wonderful about Point Park is that there's such a variety of students. You might have what you perceive to be really traditional folks and alumni, and then folks that aren't traditional who came back to get a certificate, get another degree, or finish a degree. So that's so interesting. You all are able to help them. I know the expression like meet folks where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to do, especially in the environment today. We are trying to extend our services more virtually, given the situation with COVID-19. And like I said, we try to meet students where they're at. So if they're more willing to do a face-to-face Zoom kind of video call, we can do that. Or if they just want to do a phone call, we can do that. Or even just an email appointment. We're more than willing to meet the student where they're at.
What are some of the virtual resources that students and alumni can access?
Yeah, so a lot of universities now are kind of using this platform called Handshake. So Handshake is an online career platform that you can connect students to employers, to jobs, and also they can schedule an appointment with the university's career center um, to talk with career counselors about their career exploration, any professional documents that they want looked over, and stuff like that. So Handshake is very useful. Um, it kind of mimics the social media platforms such as like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because it wants it to be user friendly, because a lot of college students use social media. So if Handshake kind of mimics that, it's going to be very user friendly and very attractive for students to use. And another thing that we've been doing was creating YouTube videos, especially during this time. We want to create YouTube videos that are virtual and long lasting for students. So some of the videos that we created were basic Handshake tutorial video, how to create your profile and how to schedule an appointment. We also kind of did like a networking through Handshake. So how can you search for jobs? How can you search for employers through Handshake? We have one that's basic. That's our basic kind of career center overview that just talks about what our office kind of provides for students and how we can help you. There's also ones about the benefits and importance of experiential learning. So experiential learning can include co-op experiences and internship experiences. And then along with that, there's one more video about how to register those experiences in Handshake, because you want to try and register those experiences so you get credit for them.
In our current environment, job searching certainly has changed.
Mhm.
What advice do you have for students and alumni that are job searching currently?
I think one of the things that they should search for is remote opportunities. So jobs that allow them to work from home. That's a very advantageous thing because there are companies that they might want to work for that are across the country, but they wouldn't be able to in a normal instance. But right now, in this kind of environment, you have that kind of ability to work for a company that's, let's say, in Seattle and you live here in Pittsburgh, but you can work remote from Pittsburgh and still have that opportunity to engage with that company that's across the country. So I would definitely suggest that they search for remote opportunities to kind of use that to their advantage.
Unfortunately, when you can't interview in person and you're interviewing remotely, what advice do you have for folks for putting their best foot forward throughout the application process?
I think one thing to remember is people as applicants and as being the interviewee, you're also interviewing the company as well. So
Mhm.
do as much research as you can about the company. If you have any questions about the company, don't be afraid to ask them, because as much as they're interviewing you, you're interviewing them to make sure that company is the best fit for you. Because you don't want to go into a company that you go into it and it just doesn't feel right. You don't have that, oh my God, I love coming to work every day feeling, because you want to love coming to work. So that's one of the I guess, suggestions that I would have is research the company to the best of your advantage. Also, use that job application to your advantage as well. They have keywords and key phrases in there that you can use in your resume. And if you include that in your resume, I wouldn't say it's cheating, but you're using the resources that they're giving you to your advantage. And you let them know that you can provide these types of skills, these types of experiences that they're looking for.
That makes a lot of sense too, in understanding. I think it's hard sometimes. I know I struggle with this. It's strange to brag about yourself in a job search situation where it's like you have to really take a step back and think, I'm not bragging to like for a bad reason. I'm talking about what I've done and how it applies to why I'm qualified.
Exactly. There's a difference between conceited and confidence. So if you portray yourself in a confident way, that employer is going to see that and you're going to move further along the job application process.
From your perspective, do you think your written materials and any written communication or phone communication that you have with possible employers matters more in our current environment?
I would definitely, yes, because we don't have that face-to-face interaction. So what they're kind of relying on is those written materials that they're looking at, and also those video interactions that they're having with you. So you want to try and make that good first impression with your written documents as well as that virtual interview.
I'm sure you've experienced this now that our homes are where a lot of folks are working. Yep. Or folks that are job searching are doing that at their homes. It's trying to figure out the best approach for you when you have a virtual interview or you have a work meeting.
Yeah, I would say also for a virtual interview, make sure you're in a quiet space. And if you do have people in your household that are around and you kind of can't get away from them, just let them know, hey, I'm doing a virtual interview right now. Give me 30 minutes to an hour, just quiet, please. Because right. this job interview could be one of the biggest interviews in your life.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Giving if you're living with family or other people, giving them a heads up. One piece of advice that I always heard when I was job searching was sometimes you really have to cater your materials to the industry. So from your perspective, why do you think that it's important that you understand industry norms when you're applying to a particular position?
So for your professional documents, let's say your resume, it's important to have that baseline resume, but that shouldn't be your only resume that you have. You should have resumes that cater to specific jobs. So you want to start with that kind of baseline resume. But as you apply to different jobs, not every resume should be the same, because you want to base your bullet statements where you describe your experiences. You want to use that job description and their requirements to your advantage, like I said earlier. You want to include those things in your resume, which should mean that your resume shouldn't be the same every time.
That's a great point too. Sure, it's much easier to have one document, but understanding that you have to adapt those documents. What advice do you have for folks with keeping track of, like, if you want to edit your resume and move stuff around or save stuff for certain position types? How would you recommend folks go about like keeping track of all that?
So what I do is I just label my resumes as is. So I say resume template, and that for me that's what my baseline resume is. And then I label every other resume to the position that I'm applying to. So let's say I'm applying to X company and applying to Y company, and then I have my baseline resume. So I have my resume template saved as resume template, and then I'm going to save my resume X company resume as resume X. So that's kind of how I separated each one of those. And in case I needed to go back for further, I guess, to look it up, to go off of it, I just look it up just like that.
Like, that makes sense too. If you have like, maybe you move something down and you edited a description for job A, but for job B, you want to copy something from your template to put it up higher.
Exactly.
So every job application is different and they might ask or require different materials. How do you encourage folks, or what advice do you have for folks as they are going through this process to stay organized or kind of keep on track with understanding what each component is?
Create folders. Create folders within folders within folders if you have to. Try to stay organized with your documents. Label them as such. Label them in a way that best suits you. So only you are your best organizer. There's no specific way to organize something. If someone is kind of a quote unquote messy organizer, that's how they stay organized. But the best advice I could give is create folders, make sure everything's in one place or different places in different folders if that's how you stay organized.
Organized chaos is how my friend
Yes.
would describe it. I don't know if you've had anybody do this one strategy I had seen when I remember like learning in school was this person talked about having a very elaborate spreadsheet that included like every job they applied to, what their status was, a contact person. Do you find things like that to be helpful when you've worked with students and alumni?
For me, on a personal level, that would be very overwhelming for me. But we discussed earlier, we have to meet the student and the alum where they're at. So if they prefer to be very organized with a spreadsheet of where they apply to, when they applied, and stuff like that, that could be something that they could use. But if, like we discussed again, organized chaos where they just have folder upon folder upon folder, that could be something that they use too. I think it's based on the situation.
Like if it ain't broke for you, don't fix it. Like just work it, don't change.
Exactly.
From your experience, what are some best practices for preparing for or putting together materials for yourself before an interview?
So look up the industry or the company's history. See what their mission statement is as well. You can kind of ask that at the end of an interview, mention the mission statement if you have any questions about it. See what the company stands for and see if it aligns with your views and your values. If it's not something that you believe in or something that doesn't kind of align with your values, most likely you're not going to have a good time at that company. You're not going to enjoy going to work every day because in the back of your mind, you're going to think these values don't align with mine. So do extensive research on the company, kind of ask questions, look up reviews about the company, see what customers have said about them. If there's negative reviews, you most likely won't want to work for that company. But if there's positive reviews, even from employees, that means that company has a good working environment.
You know, at the end of every job interview, they ask if you have any questions for them, typically. So what are some common questions that you think are always good go-tos that alumni or students could use?
I think one of the ones that is very useful is to kind of ask the interviewer, what do you look for in a candidate? What do you look for in an employee? And that can kind of give you a sense of what they're looking for in a specific person and see if you kind of fit that role. You don't want to change yourself to fit into the company's values and what they want you to look like. You want to stay true to yourself. Another thing that you might want to ask is, what does a normal day look like for an employee in this role? They can tell you all about the job description. They can tell you all about their requirements. But if you don't know what a normal day looks like, you don't know exactly what goes into the job. And then that's how you're interviewing the company. That's how you're interviewing the interviewer. Know what goes into the job, know what a normal day looks like, and see if that's something you would want to do in the future.
I think that's a great point because if their description gives you any insight into what an average day would be like, because that will be your average day, assuming you're in that role.
Exactly.
Typically in the job search process, you know that you're being evaluated from your first email to your actual interview. So what are some things that folks should always remember to do and some things that they should try to avoid?
I would say try to avoid I statements and talking about yourself a lot. While it may come across as very confident, it can also come across as conceited. You want to try to express interest in the job as much as you can without being desperate per se. So that could be a thing that you want to keep in mind, but also one thing to steer away from. Don't sound desperate, but also express interest.
One of the common pieces of advice for job searching is to always provide examples when you're either putting together written materials or you are in an interview offering experiences. Talk to me a little bit about why it is important to provide examples and what a way to think of some examples if you can't immediately.
It's important to provide examples because you want to give that evidence that you have the requirements and that you have the skills to provide the duties that this company is looking for and that you're a good fit for the job. Because if you don't provide examples, the company is just taking what you say as face value. So let's say that I have good customer service skills, but I leave it at that. How is the employer supposed to know that I have good customer service skills? So one of the things I can provide evidence for that is talking about my experience at Dunkin' Donuts. I have good customer skills through this interaction with a customer that I made them feel good after an order was messed up or something like that. something that can give the company reassurance that what you say isn't at face value and that what you say is believable.
That's a great point. And it also speaks to like when you're preparing, like either if you're doing some mock questions with a friend or you're making some notes for yourself on like things you maybe want to talk about in your interview, being able to like think through, like, if I get asked this, I can then provide this example.
And one thing to keep in mind is you're allowed to have notes at an interview. Now, you don't want to have a sheet ton of notes about
the notebook.
Exactly. About the company and everything. You can have your questions that you want to ask at the end written down. You can still have a notepad that you want to write something down if they say something and you want to ask it after the interview. You can start writing questions down that way as well. So don't forget, you can have a notepad and you can have your questions listed.
That's a great point, because I think, I mean, there's like the conventional wisdom of like have a portfolio, but even if you just had like a professional or like solid color looking notebook, like most of the time, like as long as it's clear you've like given it some thought and you're like, okay, I've put together my notes, I have it all ready. Folks are usually, I think, receptive to the notice your effort.
Yep, exactly.
Is there a quote or expression that you often say as like a mantra or something that you live
by? There's a few, I would say. So one of them is you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And it kind of goes hand in hand with don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. Because when I was a college student, the fear of going to the adult world in a working industry, it's scary. You just come out of high school, you go into college, you think college is fun, and it is. But at the end of it, you also have to think about your career. And I think that gets lost in a lot of college students' minds. They just think college is this fun time, and they kind of lose sight of what they want to do with their life. And then when that time comes, they're fearful of it a little bit. It kind of sneaks up on them. They don't know what to do. But don't run away from it. The fear should motivate you to figure out what you want to do and what you're really passionate about. You want to wake up every day when you go to work and love what you do. You don't want to dread it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of value in folks being able to understand that this job is really important to me and I like being here. It doesn't have to be the end all be all favorite thing in the entire world. You can really like it and make an impact, but also understand that there's like an intrinsic motivation.
Exactly. You don't have to stay at one company for the rest of your life. You can really like a company, but there comes a time where you might feel like you need a career change, or you just want to move on to a different company and see what's out there, because you're your own best motivator. You know what's best for you. And if you want to move on to something bigger and better, because that's something that's good for you, go do it. Who's to stop you? You're your own person.
So, Kenny, I know that you're a newer addition to the Point Park community, but a very welcome one. So could you talk a little bit about your experiences and how you ended up here?
So I graduated with my degree in December of 2019, and I was luckily able to find a job and be hired at the end of February. So what I did throughout my job search was just search through Indeed, career development, and this was the role that I found. It wasn't necessarily the therapist role, because I wasn't necessarily looking for a therapist role. I was looking for something career development that kind of made me want to engage students, be engaged with students. And the description kind of fit that well for me. So I can create events in an appealing way. And I think I fit into that nicely coming right out of college. So I think I provided a perspective, a youthful perspective that can be very refreshing to the Professional Career-Readiness Center that other people might not have heard of or might not have thought about. And then once I found this role, I was hired in late February and I was on ground for 3 weeks until we were required to work from home. So that was interesting as well. So I've been in this position for 90 days or 3 months, and the majority of it has been from home. So I'm excited to get back, to kind of be on campus, to experience downtown life, because I love downtown Pittsburgh. It's so beautiful. And to just kind of immerse myself in this role and see what I have to offer.
And I think that's a very good point of like being adaptable when you enter in a new role, because did you get to be adaptable.
3 weeks on ground and then the next 2 months at home.
That's a really good point though, about when you start a new job. like the analogy of like being a sponge, really like taking things in and experiencing and learning, because you never know what might change and you never know what you might end up having to adapt to. And luckily you had that time to really start to get used to things before things transition very quickly.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. We're glad that we had you today, and that folks are welcome to reach out to you and the Professional Career Readiness Center at any time. Like we mentioned, they truly are accessible to alumni from any point in your time as an alumni, and we hope you take advantage of them, as well as thank you for joining us for What's the Point?